Welcome back, my darlings. We'll quickly address the elephant in the room. Yes, I am back inside. When I stopped the previous recording, I realized that my battery was getting low. So here we are. I have this yarn on a different yarn minder right now. The idea being that I wanted to be able to just grab it quickly and take it outside if I needed to. But there is a distinctive flaw with the design that makes it so the yarn likes to catch. So that's why I have to keep reaching over there and giving it a gentle tug every now and then. It's possible that if I turn it upside down, the base that it's sitting on, because it has decorative laser woodcuts in the base of it. I can show you. Here we go. So this is the thing. So you can loop this over your wrist and then it just hangs through your arm. So the design flaw is these. These are laser cut wood things and they've got it painted underneath. But maybe if I turn this over so that this is the surface that's touching the yarn, then it will be less likely to catch. On a smoother yarn, it might not be as big of a deal, but for this one, anytime the yarn is traveling underneath the skein and coming into contact with that surface, it's basically catching every single time. Which does not happen on my other yarn minders that actually, that's the wrong step, that actually go with the hangers I usually use. And to be fair, I kind of knew that that was a potential problem when I bought them, and I bought them anyway, and they function mostly, but that is a cause of minor annoyance, so we'll see how long I last with it. I might just, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Now I've put my mind to it, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. This is the other annoying part. Yarn comes off. Turn this upside down. There we go. The yarn can go back on. I'm going to install this part. There. And let's see if that improves our function. See how long I can go without trying to pull on the yarn. This one came in a set of 3 of them or something like that, so if this works I might preemptively dig the other ones out of my supply stash and turn them over too. It's coming from the bottom now. Will it cooperate? I didn't have to yank on it anywhere near as hard as I've had to before. We have successful modification. But it's still not as smooth as the magnet ones. I might, after I'm done doing this video, put this one aside to be my run outside project. So that might have to wait a couple of days. It's very hot here right now. We're having 30-degree days. So that being Celsius, of course. I am filming this in Canada. We use Celsius, not Fahrenheit, for air temperature. But we like to be confusing. We use Fahrenheit for the ovens. But, yeah, so going out in the morning, it's not too bad. And because of the time of year, the real hot weather typically doesn't actually set in until kind of the early evening, more the 5 o'clock area. So being out in the morning is possible. And if it does not rain tonight, and it doesn't look like it's going to rain in the morning, I'm going to need to water my seeds. That would be much easier if it had rained and the rain barrels were filled, but it hasn't happened yet, so. It will be what it will be, though. I also need to go down to our eco center and get some mulch, but I don't know if I want to attempt that on a Friday. On the one hand, maybe if the city's arborists have been working all week, there might be a good quantity of mulch. I'm pretty sure, based on the way it is in Costco's and grocery stores and other nurseries and stuff, that the weekend will be the worst time to go to the eco center to try to get mulch from the city, just because that's when most people are off of work. And since I have the option of going when most people are working, I think that is a better time to go. But I don't know about a Friday. Might just wait until Monday. I should also perhaps not muse about this when I'm in the middle of following a pattern in my head. It also catches near the top, but that wouldn't be a problem if it was on my wrist, because then I'd be pulling from upper angle anyway. I really hope I don't get punished by the material that I'm making this top out of. Generally speaking, I try to avoid polyester or acrylic things in fabric and clothing just because I find it far too hot when I'm making the purchase. This is an acrylic yarn, though. It's open work, but I'll have to wait and see, I suppose. Hope it's not too hot. That would be very annoying, to do all the work of making a shirt and then have it be too hot. Of course, the other issue is weight. This one is a DK weight yarn, which a lot of people do use for garments. It's generally considered to be a good one for a balance between not being too bulky, like what a worsted could be, but also not taking as long to work up like something like a sport yarn would. But if the consequence is that the fabric itself is too thick, then I'm not sure if it's really going to be a worthwhile compromise for me personally. So we shall see. I had some projects queued up in Ravelry or from searches on the internet that do use worsted weight, but I'm a little bit questioning of it. We'll have to see, because if I try this, and even with the open work, that's a mistake there. Well, I'm not too far away from it. Forgot to chain 3. So I'm going back to here. There we go. If the open work is not enough to mitigate the heat retention properties of acrylic, then I have to make a judgment call about whether that is a fault of the material, because acrylic just does not breathe like a natural fiber like cotton, linen, or even a semi-synthetic like rayon, which is made from bamboo wood. So I have to make a call if I think that that's the problem. If it's a problem of crochet, because of the form that it takes, actually makes a denser fabric than knitting. So it might be that for knitting it would be okay, but maybe not in crochet, or if it's a problem of the yarn weight. If there is a problem with it, it will likely be a combination of all three, but I won't know until I get it done. It may also end up being that it's a shirt that's fine for in summer, just not the really hot days in summer. These are the kind of things I get to think about when I'm working on my stuff alone. I just finished reading a book on perennial vegetables. It was pretty decent, but the area and perspective from which it was written for doesn't actually cover most of the vegetables that I even currently have. Like every vegetable, or almost every vegetable that they listed as being growable in my growing zone, I either already have or have ruled out for other purposes. And then some of the ones that they had listed for other growing zones, I also have growing in my zone. So I don't know if that's a problem of their information source just not being broad enough or what was going on, but I'd gotten a secondary one. This is specifically on edible perennials as well, but I think this one is actually based in Northern Europe, but I think it has a bit more of a global perspective, generally speaking, so we shall see. They already have more plants in their list that I have seen, and they also have anyway, forgot where that thought was going. Like one of the differences that I've even noticed, I've only just started reading this second one, but the second one has already listed elderberry as being a perennial vegetable fruit thing. And granted, the other one didn't have a lot of fruits proper, which maybe is the reason why their artificial limit in the scope made the book less useful to me. Because I have elderberries. I have 3 elderberries of slightly different varieties, which yield both elderberries themselves as well as elderflower, which I wasn't sure if that was actually a product of a different plant, but I looked it up and no, elderberry flower is just a flower on an elderberry. So if I want to make elderflower cordial or something like that, I could do so. If my spouse wants to go crazy with the brewing and make an elderflower wine, he would have the option. The only difference there being that, obviously, unless you have a great profusion of flowers where you don't actually harvest all of them, you can only harvest one or another in the given season. If you harvest the flowers, you will not have fruit. And if you want to harvest the fruit, obviously you can't harvest the flowers. But we shall see. Those will take some time to get established anyway. They're looking pretty good so far already, which is nice. But one downside of perennial vegetables is they do take quite a bit of time to actually get established. I apologize briefly if you didn't want this to turn into Amelia talking about plants while doing crochet things, but I suppose you could always mute it if you just wanted the visuals. I have garden very much on the mind currently. I spent so much time out in the garden that I think I've actually hurt my foot a little bit. So the fact that today was so hot and somewhat obligated me to stay in the cool of the house lest I melt in the heat has probably actually been good for the foot as far as resting goes. And to be fair, I have done a lot of the garden stuff I need to do anyway. The only things I actually have left to do are set up my hanging baskets. And I had planted or seeded some greens that were perennial that I've had the seeds for a while, but I wasn't sure how viable they were anymore, and some of them did indeed come up, so I've got I've got a pretty decent idea of where I want to put them, but those do have to go in at some point, so I just have to redo the liners on my hanging baskets because they're the wire type. Hydrate the dirt that's in them, which is already partially done, so that won't be too big of a deal. And then stick the plants that I have into them. And for any of the ones that I don't have, if I don't manage to have enough plants to put in them already started, then I have some other plants that grow better from seed that I can then just seed into them. None of these things will actually take me all that long. All the planting of the little perennial things that I've got is going to be a 10-minute job, if that. I have to, because I'm switching, I had been using coconut core fluff or coconut husk fiber as the liner of my hanging baskets. But I don't particularly like it. It's really, really good for drainage. But if you have hot weather and you're trying to conserve water, then being really, really good at drainage actually is negative, because if I didn't do other water retention things, I would have to water those baskets probably twice a day, possibly even more in hot weather. I get around it, or I had been getting around it, by use of wool pellets. So those are a waste product in the wool industry where it's not good enough wool to actually go into the stuff. It's not as clean. The fibers aren't as good a quality. But they can make them into pellets, which are excellent fertilizer. They provide nitrogen to the plants, and they also greatly improve water retention. And where I live, here in north central Alberta, is generally speaking very dry. I don't think we've had a very wet summer for probably 3 or 4 years now, so retaining water is much more of a problem than drainage is. The other thing that I do is I have some watering bulbs. So it's basically a little plastic container. I have terracotta ones I use in other things, but not in this one, that has a terracotta stake on the underside of it. So you fill up the top part, and then the terracotta stake slowly releases water into the dirt. So that controls the rate of release. It also means that I don't have to water it so frequently. Those can last up to several days, depending on the temperature thing, and it's also much easier to give people instructions. Be like, because they're all shaped like birds for the most part. Just be like, okay, if you're gonna water my plants, all you have to do is, if the bird is empty, pour more water into the bird. So that's how I get around the excessive drainage problem with the things. But I'm not pleased with the coconut core stuff. I might leave it in there to be decorative, but what I'm going to do is have a layer of non-woven fabric, which is essentially felt. So it is still water permeable, but not at the same rate as the coconut husk fiber was. Oh, got myself chatting, and I've starting to go over my usual. I'll probably continue this conversation in the next video tomorrow. See you then.